So, on today's episode of Star Wars Lore, we're going to be talking about Bossk, the famed bounty hunter that brought terror upon the galaxy. Now, why are we going to be talking about Bossk? Because I kind of got into reading about him and I found he was a very interesting character, and he was really unused in other films. He only actually made two appearances, one in Empire Strikes Back and one actually very shortly in Return of the Jedi. He also appeared in the animated series, but we're not going to talk about that. So, without any further ado, let's talk about Bossk. Now, Bossk was born in 53 BBY, which is about 20 years before the events of Phantom Menace. So, yeah, he's quite old by the time we see him in the films. Now, to hit us off with a very little interesting fact, Bossk actually translates as devours his prey in Dosh, the Trandoshan language. Now, Bossk is a Trandoshan, and these are basically reptile humanoids. They come from the planet Trandoshan, or Dosha. Being reptiles, they have the ability to slowly grow back lost limbs, but it's quite painful. As well as this, they're technically a lot more stronger than most humanoids, including humans. So, basically, this race is kind of a natural-born killing machine. In fact, it's one of the few races out there that go and actually fight Wookies in hand-to-hand combat, which for most races is basically a death sentence. So, Bossk was born on Trandoshan, the homeworld of the Trandoshans. He was the son of Kradosk, the leader of the Bounty Hunters Guild, but we'll talk more about Kradosk and the guild later. Now, Trandoshans are basically born as eggs, and after hatching, Bossk devoured and ate all of his unhatched siblings, which actually kind of made his father proud of him. Weirdly enough. Like many Trandoshans, Bosk's first real appearance was him hunting Wookiees. Now, to most people this is seen as complete suicide, but the Trandoshans do this quite a lot because, well, if anybody can fight a Wookiee, then it's a Trandoshan. Now, Trandoshans, such as Bossk, hunt Wookiees for many reasons, one of which is because Wookiees are incredibly valuable as slaves due to their strength. Another reason is obviously things such as pelts from Wookiees are very valuable and seen as quite a significant trophy. But one reason, which is probably the main one, is because they try to get Jagannath points. So, what's a Jagannath point, I hear you ask? Well, basically the Trandoshans worship their goddess, which is called the Scorekeeper, who's kind of, well, a god. Now, basically it's believed that this Scorekeeper kind of keeps tally on every single kill a Trandoshan makes. So, obviously, killing a Wookiee is quite a significant kill, and they get something called Jagannath points. They get more considering the greatness of their prize. So if they kill a rare kind of Wookiee, such as a silverback, then they'll get more Jagannath points. And when a Trandoshan dies, their goddess, the Scorekeeper, will then kind of count up their points, which obviously kind of depends on what happens to them next. It's quite a weird religion that the Trandoshans have. But the key thing to remember is when they kill, they get Jagannath points, and when they die, their Jagannath points added up, and that depends on what happens to them next. So, yeah. Anyway, back to Bossk. Regardless of why he hunted the Wookiees, basically, whilst doing it, he found that he had a talent for it, and this kind of led to quite a good reputation. And for that reason, he started accepting bounties on non-Wookiees, so this is kind of the start of how he got into bounty hunting. Of course, a lot of Trandoshans do go into bounty hunting because obviously it's a good way to get the Jagannath points, but Bossk was very good at it. Although Bossk was taking bounties, he wasn't officially in the Bounty Hunters Guild, which we'll talk about in a minute. Now, basically, around the Clone Wars, Bossk just hung around the Kashyyyk system for quite a while, basically causing havoc for Wookiees and anything else that he could make credits on, including starting fights with Jedi, which kind of got him a bit of a bounty of 35,000 credits for crimes against the Republic, which is not very good. Now, during the Clone Wars, he did multiple things and started getting into bigger bounties, including the one, if you did watch the Clone Wars series, which I know was difficult, but I don't want to go into it. Including teaming up with people such as Aurra Sing and the young Boba Fett when they went to go and kind of kill Jedi Master Windu. Now, one thing led to another, and basically he ended up getting arrested. Now, whilst in prison, Bossk kind of acted as Boba Fett's bodyguard, And for that reason, Fett didn't really come to any harm in the prison because, well, you don't go trying to fight a Trandoshan barehanded. They've got very big claws. Anyway, eventually, during a Republic plot to extort information out of one of the prisoners, Bossk and Fett escaped in a prison riot. If you do want to know more, then do go and check out the animated series because it has got some quite cool points in it. Later on, Fett and Bossk kind of split up because Bossk kind of felt as if Fett was trying to hang around with amateurs in the bounty hunter trade, when Bossk was really going after more big fish, if you know what I mean. Now, as Bossk trumpled his way through the Clone Wars, by 19 BBY, the Empire had officially taken over, meaning that the Galactic Republic was no more. Now, in this time, basically, a lot of Wookies on Kashyyyk had been slaughtered by the clones after Order 66. Now, what this meant was that Wookiees were easy prey for the Trandoshans, particularly people like Bossk. Now, this story is quite a fun one. It's how Bossk met Han Solo and Chewbacca. So, around this time, there was a lot of Wookiee refugees after the massacre that happened in Kashyyyk and other places where the Wookiees were. Now, basically, Chewbacca was leading a group of these refugees on a Wookiee-safe planet, free from the Empire and people like Bossk. Unfortunately, Bossk and a few of his partners discovered this safe planet and the Wookiees hidden on it, and they saw this as more a gift from the Scorekeeper, a way of proving themselves. Now, basically, they caught these Wookiees, and they were feeling pretty proud of themselves. They could sell them as slaves, they could skin them for pelts. Basically, they were pretty damn pleased. I mean, killing one Wookiee's considered quite good, an entire group of them? Oh, that's just great. That was until Han Solo returned to the Wookiee-safe planet and landed the Millennium Falcon on Bosk's ship. Basically allowing the Wookiees to escape and blowing up Bosk's mode of transport, leaving him stranded on the planet. Now, this was obviously a bit of an issue, and for that reason, Bossk now holds a grudge against Chewbacca and Han Solo. So yeah, he really does not like Han or Chewbacca. Interestingly enough, this is also kind of how Chewbacca owed Han Solo a life debt, but that's a story for another time. Now, for a while, Bossk worked for numerous organisations such as the Hutt Cartel, the Infinite Crime Syndicate, and even Tiber Zahn, who's a character from Empire at War if you ever played that old game. But basically, Bossk had a bit of a habit of betraying people, and eventually ended up working for the Empire. Bossk eventually betrayed Tiber Zahn and sold some Sith artifacts to the Imperial Empire, which kind of got him a place in a very prestigious role, known as the Empire's Most Wanted. This is basically a group set up by the Empire to track down anybody who opposed them, so rebel leaders or anybody who spoke out against the Empire. And for someone such as Bossk, it was seen as quite a good job, high paying, and it gave him quite a lot of power. Not to mention he was probably one of the best bounty hunters there, but of course he did betray the Empire a couple of times, such as releasing the location of a prison to some rebel commanders after he was held at gunpoint. But Bossk has quite a bad history of betraying his employers, so... Now, this is quite an interesting subject. This is when Bossk attempted to take control of the Bounty Hunters Guild. Now, obviously, he was the direct heir of the Bounty Hunters Guild with his father, Kratos, who was pretty old at this point, and, well, he was getting a bit senile, especially to Bossk. Bossk basically decided that it was his turn to rule the Bounty Hunters Guild, and he started plotting how he could overthrow his father. I mean, come on, he did eat his siblings at birth, so you can't be that surprised that he's going to go and try to betray his father now. He's a bit of a dick. Now, Bossk decided to go on a couple of bounty missions with his old friend Boba Fett, IGA-8B, who's a really cool assassin droid, Zuckuss, and Daharan. Now, he actually nearly got killed by Zuckuss, who was secretly working for his father. But anyway, on these missions, Bossk kind of created some connections and bribed the other hunters, and Bossk returned to the Bounty Hunters Guild to the surprise of his father, who tried to have him killed by Zuckuss. And Bossk basically brutally murdered his father with his own weapon, which was basically like this very interesting ornamental dagger. It gets a bit weird because he then ate him, because it's kind of believed that by eating him he would get his power. Anyway, after this, the guild kind of turned into a huge firefight with some on Bosk's side, some on Kratos' side. And this kind of split the guild in half, which was the Guild Reform Committee, which was ruled by Bossk, and what's known as the True Guild, which Bossk saw as kind of the older and lazy hunters, but they were kind of the ones who believed what Bossk did was wrong. Now, to loosely explain what the Bounty Hunters Guild is, it's basically a group. It's run by the Guildmaster, who was obviously Trandoshan and now Bossk. And basically it kind of rules to keep the Bounty Hunters together, and it stops loose cannons, so particularly nasty bounty hunters. I'm not saying like Bossk. Bossk was seen as quite a good bounty hunter, but it keeps ones from going rogue, if you understand what I mean. As well as that, it benefits bounty hunters, as a lot of people would rather deal with the official guild than just independent bounty hunters, so being part of the guild means that you get access to bounties before they're officially put up, and a lot of people would rather deal with the guild as opposed to just individual bounty hunters who could be seen as a lot more reckless. So it's kind of the organisation behind bounty hunters, but it's very loose, so bounty hunters do still have a tendency to go a bit wild. So let's just talk a little bit more about Bosk's kind of equipment. Obviously, he has his classic micro-grenade launcher. He also used a standard blaster, thermal detonators, and was recorded to have used flamethrowers on some occasions. He also used multiple improvised weapons, including his incredibly sharp claws and strength. Of course, he did have his ship named the Houndstooth. He used this as his personal headquarters, but weirdly enough, the ship was often described as having a repellent odour. I mean, Bossk continued to work for multiple employees, including the Hutt Cartel and the Empire. At one point, he was actually hired to kill Luke Skywalker after the destruction of the Death Star. He did this by attempting to sabotage a ship that he was on near Tatooine in a swoop contest. Now, basically, his plan was to kill Skywalker and collect the bounty, but Luke got away. But his most probably famous of hunts was the hunt for the Millennium Falcon, which we saw in Empire Strikes Back. Now, the hunt for the Millennium Falcon was basically what the Imperials did to find Han Solo, Princess Leia, and all those other people on the Millennium Falcon after the Battle of Hoth. It was when 6 of the galaxy's best bounty hunters were hired. Obviously, Bossk wanted to do this because it involved finding Solo and Chewbacca, who he still had a very big grudge with. But wait, didn't Boba Fett collect that bounty on Han Solo? Well, yes, he did. This is due to quite a major cock-up on Bosk's behalf. Bossk teamed up with 2 amateur bounty hunters, Tinan Lat and Chem Lapek. Now, these kind of told Bossk that they had clues about Solo's whereabouts, which Bossk obviously wanted to be able to collect the bounty. They also tempted him with the offer of Wookiee intelligence that, if hacked, it would allow Bossk to kill, well, thousands of Wookiees, which, in terms of the scorekeeper, it's going to look pretty good on his resume. Unfortunately, it didn't go to plan. Bossk and the other 2 hunters arrived at the Imperial prison where the Wookiees were being held, and the other 2 bounty hunters betrayed him. They locked him in a meat locker on his ship, and they then attacked the Imperial prison, resulting in, well, a lot of Wookiees escaping and starting a riot, overthrowing the Imperial captors. The 2 bounty hunters then took the freed Wookiees and delivered them to the rebellion. So Bossk kind of helped set free thousands of Wookiees, which, well, it doesn't look very good on his resume at all, does it? It only gets worse for Bossk from here. Shortly after this, to avoid Bossk from getting out of the meat locker and ripping them to pieces, they went and dropped him off at the Imperial prison, and accused him of Wookiee pelting, which is illegal in the Empire. This was for 2 reasons, obviously, to stop the bounty hunter from killing them, and to receive extra credits. This made Bossk very upset. As well as this, one of the Imperials had a plan to have Bossk skinned and pelted, and then turned into a dress for his wife. Fortunately, he got away. From here, Bossk went on collecting bounties, including having many showdowns with people such as Fett. Interestingly enough, he was also on the sail barge at the Battle of the Sarlacc Pit in Return of the Jedi. But Bossk did have one final fight with Boba Fett on Tatooine. Yeah, he didn't actually die in the Sarlacc Pit. Boba Fett lived. He's one of the few people who could have done that. But we'll talk about that another time. I won't go into Fett anymore because it's got some pretty dodgy spoilers which I feel could maybe go into the films, but put it this way, he had a very, very interesting life, and he was very, very brutal, but we don't have any account of his death. So, that's Bossk, possibly one of the most underrated characters in the Star Wars universe. Now, he's a very interesting character. If you want to ask any questions, then just pop them down in the comments down below. And if you do want to know what happened to Bossk in his later life, do go and read the wiki page on him, or the Wookiee page on him. But do so at your own risk, because it does contain some spoilers. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you'd like to learn about more bounty hunters or any other subject in the Star Wars universe, please do pop that in the comments down below as well. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.